We've been in a series on the Holy Spirit the last 8 weeks. In the last few weeks, we've been talking to you about spiritual gifts in 1 Corinthians 12. I told you there's a total of 9 listed, and I want to really quickly go over the last 3, then I want to share something I believe that's going to encourage you. Let's look at the screens together. 1 Corinthians 12, 9 through 10 says this. This is the last 3. It says, to another faith by the same Spirit, to another gifts of healings by the same Spirit, to another working of miracles. Father, I thank you for your word. God, I pray as we close out this series, God, we're believing that you're teaching us about the gifts. And God, I was reminded this week as the phone calls came in and the text messages came in of the prayer requests, God, some of them were dire situations, Lord God. I took a moment and sat back and I was reminded how much we need these gifts of the Spirit in operation, Lord God. People are needing a touch from you. So God, let us hook up with you. Let us be sensitive to your voice. Let us be sensitive to your Spirit. And we say, Holy Spirit, have your way. Make us sensitive to you like we've never been before and come and move in our midst individually and corporately as a church. Because we desperately have to have you in our church, in our lives. And we pray this in Christ's name. And everybody said, you may be seated. Thanks, Brent. The last 3 gifts are known as, thank you. I really want to blow my nose, but I don't know if that's proper or not. This is the power gifts. These gifts give us the ability to do something. And I want to go through these really quick, and so I apologize if I run through these, but I believe there's something we should discuss today as a church, okay? So the first one is the gift of faith. Write this down. The gift of faith allows you to receive something from God. The gift of faith will allow you to receive something miraculous from God. When the gift of faith is in operation, you can supernaturally and against all odds, believe God for a miracle. Let me say that again. When the gift of faith is in operation, you can supernaturally and against all odds believe God for a miracle. Daniel 6:23 says this. The king couldn't hardly contain his excitement and joy. He ordered that Daniel be taken up out of the lion's den. He was removed and examined carefully, but not even a scratch was found on him. And look why. Because he put his trust, in other words, he put his faith in God. And how many know? I'm going to go on a limb here. If we went up to the Tulsa Zoo and you jumped that fence and you got into that den of those lions that are up there and we waited to come back and check on you tomorrow morning, things ain't going to look good for you. Amen? This is supernatural. They threw him in there. The king was brokenhearted. And the first thing in the morning, the Bible said the king ran and he opened up that thing. And you know what they were expected? Daniel not to be there. But how many know? There he was. They brought him out of there. And I believe that took some special faith to lay your head down in the middle of a lion's den. Can somebody say amen to that? Amen. Whew. If you guys want to try that, let me know. Can you imagine that one? The next one, I'm going to go through real quick, is the gifts of healing. And I want you to notice I didn't say the gift of healing, because I don't believe anybody or one person has the gift of healing. The Bible makes it clear it's the gifts of healing. Write this down. Gifts of healing is supernatural healing from a sickness or disease without natural intervention. In other words, medical science has nothing to do with the healing. And how many know we are thankful for medical science? I'm thankful for doctors. I'm thankful for medicine. I'm thankful for nurses. I'm thankful for respiratory therapists. I'm thankful for the whole field of the men and women who serve day in and day out in the doctor's office, in the hospitals, and nursing homes, and all around. Amen? And I thank you that medicine can help bring you healing, but when we talk about gifts of healing, how many know it's not talking about intervention of any kind? It's when God himself touches you. Amen? Acts 28, 8 through 9 says this, as it happened, Publius' father was ill with fever and dysentery. Paul went in and prayed for him, and laying his hands on him, and he healed him. Then all the other sick people in the island came and were cured. I have a question for you. Remember, this has no intervention with medical science, right? So here's my Bible quiz for you today. Who wrote the book of Acts? Paul, Luke, Jesus, God. We can be really spiritual and say the Holy Spirit, right? If you're like my kids and you don't know the answer, you just say, God. We're going through Advent with them right now, and we're asking them questions as we go through the book and asking questions. Hey, what does this mean? God loves us. I'm like that. I mean, how do you argue that, right? I'm like, what does the rainbow mean? God loves us. Oh, okay. What are the stars? Last I read about the stars in the sky, the promise of Abraham. What does that mean? God loves us. I'm like, well, I'm going to quit asking questions because this pretty much sums it all. But to answer your question, the writer of the book of Acts, Philip, our teaching pastor, is who? Luke. And if you don't mind me asking, do you know what Luke's profession was? A what? Luke was a doctor. So why do I bring that up? Because Luke, who wrote the book of Acts, was with Paul and seen these people were sick, and he was there as a doctor, had the opportunity in the natural, but how many know this was not natural what they experienced? This was a supernatural touch from God. Amen? It didn't say that Luke looked him over and did this and do that. No, Paul says, you know what? You're sick. Come here. I'm going to lay hands on you. And everybody was healed on the island. And how many know Luke was like, now that's how to run a practice out of business. Right? If you're a doctor, you're like, well, doctor, I got good news. What's that? There is over 100 patients in the waiting room. Awesome. What's the bad news? Paul just healed them all. Okay. The last one. The working of miracles. Write this down. Working of miracles is a supernatural demonstration of the power of God by which the laws of nature are affected. The laws of nature are affected. Do you guys remember the guy, the one that jumped out at me is by the name of Joshua? Remember Joshua? Me and Farron. Okay, Joshua 10. Look what Joshua prayed. Joshua prayed out loud, let the sun stand still. How many know that's just not practical in the natural? The sun doesn't stand still. You all know that, right? And look what it says. And the sun and the moon didn't move. Whew. That's a miracle. How many would know when Jesus had all those people together? We talk about the 5,000, but how many know it's really not 5,000? We could say safe estimate it's probably 20,000 people. And he says an interesting thing. Hey, what do you guys got? I think I want to teach about that pretty soon. But you know what he said? We don't have anything. Isn't that what you and I usually do? What do we have to offer God and we don't say anything? But we have 5 fish and 2 loaves. Or what did I just say that backwards, didn't I? 5 loaves and 2 fish. You know what Jesus did? He takes the little that we have, he blesses it, and then he fed over 20,000 people with 2 fish and 5 loaves. How many know in the natural, that's not possible? Working of a miracle. Amen? There's a lot more we could say, and I'm going to close this out. So I want to encourage you to go to our YouTube channel and watch any of these sermons you've missed over the last 8 or 9 weeks we did, because I believe they're going to be powerful to you. Does everybody agree with that? Can somebody say amen? Everybody say, Sermon 1 is complete. Now you ready for sermon 2? Should we stand up? We won't stand up. How many of you guys are familiar with Hebrews chapter 11? Raise your hand. Hebrews chapter 11. If you're watching online, say, I am, or do the raise hand emoji. I want to know. Hebrews chapter 11. Raise your hand. Come on, raise it up. Let me see you. Hebrews chapter 11. All right. Some of us are. Well, it's known as the Hall of Faith, or some people call it the Faith Hall of Fame. The people in Hebrews 11 are often known as the heroes of our faith. The Bible lists the great exploits that they did that got them listed in Hebrews 11. But I was meditating upon that this week, and there was something that jumped out at me that I really want to share with you that I think is going to encourage you this morning. And let's look at the screens together. It's Hebrews 11:13. Hebrews 11:13 says this. These men of faith that we mentioned, if you go through them and read there, the first beginning, he mentioned all the great things that they did. But then he goes back and he says this. These men of faith that I've mentioned died without ever receiving all that God had promised them. Wow. Right in the middle of encouraging us of great faith, God intervenes and says that some of these people didn't get to see what they were believing God for. And that led me to my title of my second sermon, which is this: Dealing with Disappointment. Dealing with disappointment. And my question is this: have you ever been disappointed this morning? Raise your hand if you have. Disappointment can come from so many different areas of our lives. But one thing is certain: while living on this earth, you will have the opportunity to be disappointed. I know that's not shouting material, right? Woo, I get to be disappointed. But how many know that's just the reality of living on this earth that we live on? How many know if you live long enough, you're going to be disappointed? There are many ways that we can experience disappointment, but I want to focus on two that I think we all deal with if we are completely transparent and honest this morning, and it's this: what do we do when we're disappointed with people and God? What do you do when people disappoint you? I mean, that's a little easier to deal with. But the real question is, what do you do when God disappoints you? Is it okay if we just get real honest this morning? Maybe I'm the only one who's ever been disappointed by people and God. Maybe I should go back to Hebrews 11 and see if your all's names are written in there. But I've lived long enough where some people have disappointed me. And I've lived long enough where it seems, listen to what I said, seems in the natural where I've been disappointed by God. Anybody else? Or am I going to be up here by myself preaching this morning? Write this down. I'm going to try to help you this morning. Being disappointed by people is hurtful, but being disappointed with God can be devastating. There ain't no doubt people will let us down, and that's hurtful. But when you think that your Heavenly Father let you down, if we're not careful, it can bring devastation. So with my remaining time, I want to encourage you with just a few things how you and I can deal with disappointment with people and with God. So when it comes to people, we'll do those first. I'm going to give you my first rule. Write this down. If you've ever been disappointed by people, this is what you need to do. Focus on what you can control not what you can't. Focus on what you can control, not what you can't. How many know you can't control what they say? You can't control what they do. But how many know you are in total control of how you respond? I should probably repeat that. You can't control what they say. You can't control what they do, but you and I are in total control in how we respond. Write this down. Don't allow people's actions to determine your response. Don't allow people's actions to determine your response. How many know I can't control what they say, what they do, but the only thing I am in control of is how I respond to it. Over the last 12 years, I've been accused of a lot of different things. I can't control what they say or even what they do. I've said it once, I've said it a million times. I wish I got to say everything I wish I could say. Like other people. Other people get to say whatever they want, right? We don't get to do that. As Christians, we shouldn't do that. I mean, we can't respond to everything everybody says against us. Otherwise, your day will be busy very quickly. Romans 12:17 says this: if someone has done you wrong, do not repay him with a wrong. How many of you ever grew up and heard that 2 wrongs don't make a right? Huh? Right? But in these situations, don't you ever just want to just say something? Come on, let's just be honest this morning. When they say something, you're like, oh man. I say it like this. When somebody says something, they're telling you the head sides of the story. But how many know there's always the tail side? You should learn that as an adult. 2 things you should learn. I'll give you a piece of quick advice. You ready? 1, there's the heads and the tail sides of 2 stories. And the second one is this: if you're the person somebody always comes talk to about another person, then maybe you have a problem yourself. It got really quiet really quick, right? If people want to run to you, in other words, and gossip to you, you might ask yourself, why do people want to gossip to me about other people? Just a thought. We better move on. You guys are getting too quiet to me. I'm going to give you one more thought. Is that all right? Write this down. Realize you will never live up to people's expectations of you. Notice what I said. Realize you will never live up to other people's expectation of you. Do you know you all have expectations of other people? If you're married this morning, whether you realize it or not, you have an expectation of your spouse. And more than likely, your spouse will never live up to that expectation. Did you know you have an expectation of your friends? If you're an employee, you have an expectation of your boss. If you're a boss, you have an expectation of your employees. If you're a parent, you have expectations of your kids. And how many know that never goes well? I'm going to hope they pick up this toy room today. And how many know I'm still hoping 7 years later almost? We all have expectations. But you need to realize quickly that you're never going to live up to other people's expectations of you. And listen, here's the good news. You don't have to. Think about this. Didn't they do that to Jesus? Here he is, the Messiah coming, and all they wanted to know when he was going to do was destroy Rome and set up a new temple and do this all over again and get rid of all these bad people who are trying to oppress them. Right? That was their expectation. Jesus, when are you going to do this? Jesus, when are you going to do this? Jesus, this is how you should do this. Jesus, this is what you should do. Jesus, what are you doing hanging around with people like that? That was an expectation of him. And how many know Jesus didn't have time to live up to their expectations? He had time just to do what he was called to do. And if you're going to live in some peace in your life, you're going to have to realize you will never, ever live up to people's expectations of you. Turn to your neighbor and say, that's good preaching. Where are we at? Oh, we're almost done. I told you I'm quitting early nowadays, so you guys will come back and stay. Amen? So we ready to move on? How do we deal when we get disappointed with God? This one's a little bit more tricky. Disappointment with God. Write this down. Here's my first rule. Focus on what you know is true, not what you feel is true. Because when you're disappointed, your emotions are everywhere. Listen to me. Let me give you a piece of pastoral advice again. I'm giving you free pastoral counseling this morning, okay? If somebody ever comes to you in the midst of pain, in the midst of all this stuff, and they ever just simply say this, follow your heart, don't listen to them. I'm serious. The Bible says, no, you got to watch this thing. And listen to me, when you're in the midst of going through hell, when your emotions all over the place, you don't want to follow your heart, because follow your heart means that you're going to pull the guy over who just ran you over, and you're going to punch him in the face. You just cut me off, bro. And I was in a hurry. And if I followed my heart, I literally would honk at you, roll my window down, and wave, the Christian wave, and say, pull over. And now the Bible commands me to lay hands on you suddenly. So I just want to be biblical. And so I'm going to lay both hands on you. Because God says if I want biblical results, I got to follow biblical patterns. Right? You can't trust your emotions. When you feel like you're in the midst of this battle, spiritual battle sometimes, and your emotions are all over the place, you feel like God has let you down, listen to me. You must focus on what you know is true, not what you feel is true. Man, you're like, God, where were you? Why would you leave me in the midst of all of this? I've never felt more alone. Listen, that's your feelings, and those are true. But here's the real truth. God said he would never leave you, and he would never forsake you. But your feelings say in the midst of this battle that you were all alone and that he left you. No, listen to me. It's the farthest thing from the truth this morning. He's right there. He'll never leave us. He'll never forsake us. So a couple thoughts. Our feelings were meant to be an indicator, not a dictator. Right? Let me say it again. Our feelings were meant to be indicators, not dictators. I'm not going to let my feelings dictate how I feel. Now, I'm not trying to be mean, but if you've been married for a little while, then you should know this truth, right? Are you going to let your feelings dictate how you feel about your spouse? How many times there are times you want to be honest with your spouse? Philip, what day you're doing counseling nowadays? Huh? Tuesdays? Tuesdays at 3 if you want to meet with Philip. How many times you just want to be honest with your kids? And though you feel it, it's not true. Example. I can say this because Jax is in kids' church, and so he's not watching this. If Ava's at home, If you're watching, Daddy loves you, and we're praying that you feel better. Is that Jax, he seems to drop stuff and do a lot of things a lot. It's like, and here's the other thing. I think this is in a male gene. Next thing I'm about to say, and if this offends you, talk to Philip. Okay? You have to tell Philip gets a word, and he feels if it's from God, then he shares it with me. If it's not, we throw it away. But here's the male gene. You tell me, women, I'll let you guys vote this morning, is that men seem to, how do I want to put this where I don't offend the men in the church and watching online? Men seem to or easily overlook items that we're looking for. Hey, honey, could you run to the pantry and grab the Cheetos? Yep. Hey, babe, we're out of Cheetos. There's no Cheetos. Oh, there's Cheetos. No, there's not. I was just in the pantry. There's no Cheetos. Babe, they're on the bottom shelf next to the Fritz crackers. Right behind them is the bonbons. Nope, we're out of crack. They're gone. They're gone. Your wife gets up. She's interested to see if one of the kids ate the Cheetos. She walks into the pantry. She walks to the lower shelf. She gets next to the Ritz crackers, the bonbons, and out she comes with a bag of Cheetos. And ever the men say, where were those? I didn't see those. That's my son. Hey, Jax, do you know where your phone is? No, I haven't seen it. You sure you haven't seen it, son? No, I don't know where it is. Hey, son, look down. So the other day he did this, and I caught myself. My feelings wanted to say, you always do this. But here's the truth. He doesn't always do it. Always is a powerful word. And when you're in the midst of a situation, when your feelings are awry, be careful what you say, because you have to be careful what you're feeling. You feel like it's true, but ultimately it's probably not true. You got to focus on what you know is true. Right? Write this down. God designed your emotions to be gauges, not guides. You know what a gauge does? Report something to you. Your gauge, your temperature, will tell you what the temperature is. It's just simply to report information to you. And then you get the choice to what you do with the information that it reports to you. Right now, just for fun, however many of you here think it's hot in here, raise your hand. In the room right here, you think it's hot in here. How many of you think, oh man, it's a little bit chilly in here, raise your hand. See what we battle with every Sunday? It's hot, it's cold, it's hot, it's cold. Is it? But you know what all that thing does? It shows me what the temperature is. Now, we have to control what we do with it. I have to decide to tell somebody or walk over there and be like, you know what? 72 is too warm. Let's bring it down a little bit. 68 is too cold. Let's turn it up a little bit. It's simply a gauge. God gave us our emotions as gauges. Okay? I think I wrote down a second. They're meant to report you, not dictate you. Listen. Same illustration. Dadgummit, it's hot in here. Listen, you have the opportunity to change it. Now, and here I'm going to ask you not to do that. But how many know I'll say this illustration? In your own home, in your own thermostat, in your own life, in your own situation, your gauges will show you something, and it's up to you what you do with it. You can sit in there and say, why is it so cold in here all the time? Or you can get off your derriere and you can go warm it up in there. But a lot of people just want to gripe how cold it is. Or golly, it's hot in here. Do something about it. It's not going to change unless you do something. Amen? That's good. I'm getting ready to close. The worship team can join me back up here. Y'all didn't think I could do it. We've preached 2 sermons in the time of one time. I think we should have confetti guns to celebrate. Write this down. We are called to live by faith, not our feelings. You know what the Word of God says? We are to live by faith, not our feelings. Remember, feelings are a good indicator, but a horrible dictator. I can't be led by my feelings. You can't be led by your feelings. None of us can be led by my feelings. Let's be honest this morning. Majority of you tomorrow, if you're led by your feelings, then you're staying in bed tomorrow morning and you're not going to work. Right? There's a few of us that you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're like, "Hey, party." You're like Elf. You're just excited for no reason. And most of us are like the father on Elf. Calm down. He's like, "Made you breakfast? Cup of coffee?" I won't say who this person is in our household, but there's one person who wakes up and needs just a little bit of time. And I've let the kids know not to speak to this person for just a few minutes because they just need a little time. And I won't say that my daughter is just like her. When she wakes up in the morning, you know, "Good morning, sweetie." "Dad, don't." Okay. Jax wakes up, I'm like, "Hey, buddy." He's like, "Hey, Dad, you want to play tag?" "Want to wrestle?" "No, I don't. I've been wrestling your sister all morning." We can't live by our feelings. We got to live by our faith. Amen? Will you stand to your feet? I'll give you one last thought and one scripture. Here's my last thought. When God disappoints you, it's easy to focus on your feelings and not the truth. Did you hear that? When God disappoints us, it's easy to focus on our feelings and not the truth. This is difficult. We've got to learn to do this. And here's why. Philippians 4:8 says this. I'm concluding, so I thought it was pretty prophetic. Philippians 4:8 says, "In conclusion." Did you feel like that's pretty fitting? Brothers and sisters, focus your thoughts on what is, everybody say it out loud, on what is. Turn to your neighbor and say, focus on what is true. Tell your other neighbor, say, focus on what is true. That's the piece of advice I'll give you when you become disappointed with God, is this. Focus on you know what is true, not what you feel like is true. Will you close your eyes? Father, I know ultimately as on this earth we will all deal with disappointments. But God, I believe how we learn to deal with those disappointments will determine how we move forward. So God, I pray that you would bring things back to our remembrance as I taught about this, Lord God, when people disappoint us, how we would deal with it. And God, when ultimately we feel disappointed by you, we remind ourselves to focus on what we know is true. God, those people are in the room this morning, and for those who are watching online, I'd have to guess, in a room this size, there are many of us who feel disappointed with people and with you, if we're honest this morning. They've been hurt. In some ways, we feel let down. And God, they've guarded a certain part of their hearts. And Father, I pray this morning that you would begin to minister to them. You would bring healing to those places that have been hurt. You would begin to speak to them, Holy Spirit, of those areas. And as painful as it might be, they would open up those areas of their life that they've been hurt, because until we seek healing for those areas, God, they'll remain infected. And we know in the natural that an infection is not caught. It can go to other parts of our bodies. And God, some of them this morning, it's affected them. It's affected their hearts. It's affected their love walk. It's affected how they deal with people. It's affected how they deal with their spouse. It's affected how they deal with their friends. And God, we need healing to come into those areas of their lives. This morning, will you close your eyes and will you just lift up your hands in this place as they begin to sing? I believe today, healing is here. Healing is here. I pray as we begin to worship this morning.
You give life, you are love, you bring light
Yeah.
to the darkness.
You would. You would give hope. You would restore.
Every heart that is broken.
Every heart that is broken. Come on, let's sing it to him, church.
Thank you for watching the Reach Church YouTube channel. Stay connected with us on Facebook and Instagram. Hit the subscribe button and share this video with a friend. You can also support the ministry by visiting reachchurch.us/give to help us continue reaching and equipping people. Thanks again for watching, and God bless.